so I got a little carried away. I was at my not-so-local hardware store in search of a paint color for my house, and the sheer number of paint samples was so overwhelming to the point that I had to take as many as possible to bring home so I could sort through them later. But don't worry, I didn't just take the paint samples and run, because I fell victim to the super succulent sale and bought far too many plants that will probably meet their demise under my care. After choosing a color, I knew I couldn't just return the samples to the store, so I was faced with the moral dilemma of what to do with these extra pieces of paper that provide dozens of vibrant colors that could surely be put to good use. Well, make a collage, of course. The image that I've decided to recreate is this masterpiece right here. It's one of the top results when you do a Google image search for Avatar: The Last Airbender poster. I don't know who to credit with the making of this image because it shows up on at least 3 different Etsy pages and AliExpress. So whoever you are, it is beautiful, and I thank you for your contribution to the art insanity that is about to ensue. Before I can start cutting and gluing the collage, I want to transfer the image onto the poster board so that the final result will look as proportional as possible. However, I don't own a projector, so in order to do this, I have a scaled up printout of the image that I am basically going to tape down and then trace over each line with a pin so that it creates a small indentation in the poster board. From there, I'll be able to see the general outline of the image and use this while making the collage. The reason that I chose this image above all other Avatar-themed pictures is that, for one, I won't actually have to recreate any close-ups of the characters, but most importantly, it uses most of the colors that I've collected to give sort of a rainbow effect. Alright, time to see if it fully transferred. I can definitely see the general outline of where everything needs to go, but because this image is so low quality, I couldn't see any lines through here. So this area is just going to be guesswork. Other than that, I think this will work. Alright, so what I've just done is go through every color that I have and compared that to the picture that I'm trying to recreate, and I've made a little list of the colors that I'm going to need more of. For starters, I'm going to need a lot more blue because here at the bottom there are a lot of shades that I know I'm just going to run out of, and then I also don't have any white, so I need that to make the moon and the text at the bottom. So, let's go shopping. One quick trip to the hardware store and we made out with a few extra paint samples. Home Depot, please don't come at me because we also bought $200 worth of wood to build shelves. Hence my husband so graciously pointing out my dirty hands with this close-up. Anyway, let's get started on this thing by cutting everything down to size. Alright, so last night after getting a few more paint swatches, I made a little test piece to see how the paper and glue will react on the poster board, and I'm just using regular Elmer's glue. And so far so good. The poster board is not warping as a result of having the glue on there. However, the glue is very noticeable when dry, so that's something I'm going to have to be mindful of when I start cutting and gluing. And speaking of that, let's get started. If you're not familiar with Avatar: The Last Airbender, it is
the best show ever.
It's a show that came out in February of 2005 on Nickelodeon and follows the story of Aang, who is the avatar of his universe. This means that he's able to control or bend all 4 elements, as opposed to other people in the world who can only control one or none at all. As the Avatar, it's Aang's responsibility to stop the war that the Fire Nation started over 100 years ago and restore balance to the world. Aang is not happy about being born the Avatar, and the 3 books follow his journey of fighting and eventually accepting this responsibility with the help of his companions that he meets along the way. Not only is this series beautifully animated with its vivid world building and Asian culture influences, but the characters are so well developed and the story hits on themes that are rarely explored this in-depth in series meant for adults that you forget it was made for kids. And I won't even get into the universal acceptance of Zuko's redemption arc being the best of all time. The series is just incredible. Please immediately watch it or treat yourself to some nostalgia and rewatch it. So last night, as the glue was drying, the poster board definitely got a little warped, but I was expecting that, so I'll just squish this with a few heavy books after everything is done. And for today, the plan is to complete everything above the main tree line, which includes Appa and the gang. So let's get started. If you're wondering if there's any special reason for the poster board to be black, there's not. It was supposed to be on sale for just $1, but when I got up to the register, it was actually going to cost a full $6. For a poster board. Would it have been worth it to walk to the back of the store and get a cheaper poster board, or at least take a picture of the sale sign to submit as evidence to the cashier lady so that I might actually get the discount? Of course. Did I actually do that? Obviously not, because pride demanded that I pay the full price. Oh, and in case you couldn't tell by now, there is no method to the size and shape of each piece of paper while filling in blank space, and my internal monologue mostly consisted of, I haven't cut out a pointy one in a while, so I guess I should do that, and so far that plan has not proven to be a complete train wreck. Cutting out the gang is a little too advanced for my scissors here, therefore I will be using this razor blade, for which the task might also be too advanced, but I can't find my X-Acto knife. So all this does is rip the paper and make me sad, so we're gonna have to try the scissors. And surprisingly, they worked way better than the razor blade. This is definitely something that's not meant to be looked at closely, but it turned out better than I expected. So, scissors 1, razor blade 0. Cutting out the farthest tree line was surprisingly the most fun part of this collage because all I had to do was cut out a bunch of tiny triangles a few dozen times, and after a while it became hypnotizing to the point that I was sad to go back to random shapes. At this point, everything behind the main tree line is done, and the general takeaway that I have so far is that the Fire Nation successfully attacked this area of the forest, and the gang is just kind of solemnly flying over because they know there's nothing they can do to stop the spread of the flames. Anyway, let's finish this thing. Cutting out these trees was tedious, so I'll spare you the time lapse. Alright, so my original plan was to work from the background to the foreground, and that still is mostly the plan, but I'm going to go ahead and complete the stream first, which starts like kind of from the middle all the way down to the front of the collage. And this is because everything on the shoreline is going to sit on top of the stream to help define it and give it its shape. And doing this first will just make my life a lot easier. What this time-lapse doesn't show is that by the time I got to this point, I would stare at the collage for minutes at a time willing it to be done. And in order to motivate myself, I had to literally make it a game and time myself to see how fast I could get each section done. Then, as I got down to the bottom 2 sections on either side of the stream, I started running out of dark blue, and I was afraid the collage would lack shape and depth of color and end up resembling the low-quality printout that I had used to trace the image onto the poster board. However, thankfully I had been dropping copious amounts of paper on the floor throughout this entire process, so I was able to use enough scraps to get everything covered. If I have any takeaways from this project, it's that you should probably always save the worst thing for last. I won't go into too much detail, but from cutting out these minuscule letters and characters, I have a hunch that I know what the early onset of arthritis feels like. Anyway, in the wise words of Sokka, the journey was long and annoying, but now you get to see what it's really about, the destination. Overall, this project took me about 10 hours to complete, split up over a few days. Am I tired of holding scissors, and did I get Elmer's glue everywhere? Absolutely, but this really was a pretty fun and easy project. So, if you're like me and get a little carried away in the selection of a paint color, this is a pretty fun way to make sure all those samples don't go to waste.